Hey guys, welcome back. So in a previous video I made this machine and I demonstrated how I made it, and then I also showed some of the uses for the machine. But in that video it was focused primarily on metalworking. But since making the machine, I've found quite a few new uses for it, and one of those uses is leatherworking. So I wanted to make a new video just demonstrating some of those uses. If you want to know how I made this machine, I do an entire tutorial on how I built it in the previous video. I think it's called like 10-in-1 jewelry making machine or something like that. But yeah, I think the machine was like $70, and I've just been finding so many new uses for it. So definitely my favorite feature of this machine is the collet system. It uses an e-collet, and which basically means that it has these interchangeable collet heads here that allow you to put any bit from, I believe, 1 millimeter up to 1/2 inch. So you could pretty much put any size tool in here. It comes with 15 different sized collet heads. So for this use, the first leatherworking use that I found for this machine is turning this machine into an edge burnisher, which it's a great edge burnisher. Just that one use alone, edge burnishers are about $75, $80 minimum. So even if you use the machine just for edge burnishing, it's worth it. But I found a ton of additional uses, and that's just with leatherworking. I made an entire separate video on all the metalworking uses. So for the next, actually before I change out the collet, another use would be with, you just put one of these sanding drums in, and by putting a sanding drum in here, you can use it to blend your edges or sand your edges. For the next use, I need to change out the collet. So if you change out this collet and you put a bigger collet in here, I find that this machine does a really good job at sharpening hole punches, which are a real pain in the ass to sharpen if you don't have the right tools. And it sort of works like a lathe, where you just get some really fine sandpaper and just sand and polish your edge. And then to get the inside of the blade, you just take the sandpaper and create like a cone shape with it. You just twist it into a cone, and then well, I gotta get it a little bit tighter than that. Make a nice tight cone shape like that with your sandpaper, and just stick it in the center of the hole, and it does a really good job at getting these razor sharp. And this method works with hole punches all the way up to about a 1/2 inch size. So bigger than that, you're going to have trouble fitting it in the collet. But I don't use any hole punches any bigger than 1/2 inch. And as you can see, razor sharp now. It actually sharpens blades too. Actually sharpens all leatherworking tools. I'll show you blades next. So to sharpen blades, you change out the collet again. For this, we're going to use the small collet. And then we're going to use this. It's just a screw with a bolt and a bunch of pieces of leather stacked on top of one another. So essentially it's a strop, but because of this tool and because it's variable speed, it becomes a sort of an electric strop. So for one, it's great at sharpening flat blades. You could either put polishing compound on the strop. You can prime it with polishing compound, or when I have really dull blades, I put a little bit of diamond powder on there. But usually just regular stropping compound is totally sufficient. Just like a few seconds on here, and your blade is razor sharp. As you can see, blade's razor sharp. And if it ever does go dull, just hit it on here for a second and it's razor sharp again. But it's not just good with flat edge blades. You can also do weird shaped blades like, well, these skivers are good because you can sharpen it on the back side and catch the edge for the inside. Just a second on the machine and these guys get razor sharp as well. But this is a fairly easy tool to sharpen. These edge bevelers are much more tricky. You usually need like a special jig to sharpen these. But this machine sharpens these just as easily. To sharpen these, you just have to take the concave area and just put it on the edge. And then flip it. And same thing, these guys are razor sharp. What else can I show you guys? If you're working with really thick leather, you can plug this into it and run a flex shaft off of it for drilling holes in really thick leather. Works really well for that. But I have another fun use for this. Let me show you something else. Alright, for this we need to change the collet. We need to change the collet again. And I have a disc here. You can make this out of anything you want, wood, plastic, whatever. Just a disc with a hole drilled in it and a bolt. And we're gonna mount that. Alright, so you're gonna mount any sort of wheel on here. And then what I'm doing here, I'm just putting a cap under there. But you can put any container you want. I'm going to fill the reservoir with edge paint. Alright, and because this machine is variable speed, you can just run it really slow. Needs a little bit more. And it becomes an edge painter, which is really helpful when doing belts because belts just take forever. The container's a little small, so it's leaking. I would definitely put a bigger container under there, but it's really great for edge painting entire edges in like a second. Just run the entire edge along it, and the entire edge is painted beautifully, and it takes like a second. You can do belts and like an entire belt in like 2 seconds with this. Anyway, that's a few uses for leatherworking, in case you might do metalworking and leatherworking. If you just do leatherworking, I think this machine is worth it. But considering all the metalworking uses as well, I think this is just a great machine. I actually have a lot of other uses, but one thing in particular that I'm working on now, I haven't finished it yet, is I'm making an attachment to turn this machine into a bell skiver. So it's going to snap on here, and hopefully it's going to work as a bell skiver. So if that works out, I'll make a future video. And yeah, that's it. If you're interested in this type of content, please consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next video.